Well, if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you're gonna like this movie. If you're a fan of Silver Age DC Comics, you're gonna like this movie. Um, I didn't like this movie. I laughed. I thought some parts were fun, but it just goes to prove that people, unfortunately, will never accept Superman as anything other than saving cats out of trees, you know, and uh, the shitty thing about this one was that the overarching motifs of the character, the Lex Luthor's envy of Superman, Superman's goodness, they have to be said instead of shown through deeds, deeds not words, to quote Megaforce. They just, even if you don't like the Zack Snyder ones, there was more going on there. I think I think Snyder and Goyer and Chris Nolan thought that the audience was smarter. And in this one, everything is just kind of said out loud. There's too many characters. Nobody really gets much time to do things, except like Guy Gardner does because it's Nathan Fillion, because he's the director's friend. But like, why is Hawkgirl here? Why, I understand the scene that Metamorpho is in. It was cool to see Metamorpho. It was cool that it's a dude in makeup. And Maxwell Lord makes a cameo, but like, why are there so many characters? Why, and somebody's like, oh, it's based on All-Star Superman. No, it's not. The suit, similar looking. It's got that over-designed Marvel-ness to it, where things are like Velcro and padded and extra lines and stuff like that. I thought like by the end of the movie he'd get like a slick like movie suit, but that wasn't the case. David Cornsweet just kind of more reminded me of John Krasinski. He's got like that kind of like John Krasinski nose and bottom of his face thing. And it's funny because my Brian, who I went with tonight, was he's known all over the Philly film scene, and the new Superman is from Philly. He's like, oh, that dude auditioned to play my little brother in a project. And I was like, well, now he's fucking Superman, I think him and Lois have good chemistry together. But like with Lex Luthor, it's like they're trying to do the cartoon Lex Luthor, but everything just has to be spelled out for people. And then they keep doing the drones thing with Ultraman and the Engineer. That's basically just the scene with the gold people in Guardians 2. Crypto was annoying. Like, I understand that James Gunn has to have the emotional support animal in everything, but then there's also like a little kaiju baby that turns into a giant, and Metamorpho has like a green alien baby thing too, and when they go into the cells from fucking Cabin in the Woods that just so happens to be in the Minecraft world. Bradley Cooper's Jor-El I really, really don't agree with what they did with that. I feel like there was plot points that were supposed to be changed that they just forgot about. If Superman breaking the neck of Zod, Space Hitler, is too much for you, where he has to make the choice to save humanity, to save humans, to become the last son of Krypton. If that is a bridge too far for you, then this one of him killing his clone, just like it's nothing, and yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things in this movie that just made me go, if Zack Snyder did that, you people would have burned the fucking internet down. I don't know. His parents were too like country bumpkin-y for me. Like his dad, I like that actor. I like he's in Constantine and stuff. But he talked like he got kicked in the head by like a mule or something like that. Everything was too clean looking. The Superman saying things like bro and dude and stuff just doesn't feel, especially when they show his parents are. The interiors of the ships and stuff just reminded me too much of like Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, you could have seen all the twists coming from a mile away in it, and it did things that Batman vs Superman did, but it did them dumber. And for that reason alone, I think people are gonna like it more. The dude who played Superman's fine. I like the actress who plays Lois Lane. I thought the whole Jimmy Olsen being like a sex god idea with Miss Tessmacher being obsessed with him and like being like an Instagram influencer and stuff like that. I was like, really? Like, this is what we're doing here? I just feel like it didn't. The core concept of Superman, I just feel like they just did it on such a superficial level for this. There's, if not more, destruction of the city. Nobody's gonna say anything about that. Yeah, I don't. And then you have this whole subplot where Peter Parker's landlord from Spider-Man 2 is like the head of like some Middle Eastern country that's invading another Middle Eastern country, and Superman got in the middle of it and like said stop doing it. So now it started a war because they didn't do that in Batman vs Superman, where he moved unilaterally, and they said, shouldn't Superman have somebody telling him what he can and can't do out here? Again, it repeats a lot of plot points from the other movies, but just does them dumber, like far more superficially, and that's probably why it's going to do so much better and why people are going to like it so much more, is because there is no thinking behind it. It just kind of goes, and it's colorful, and it has the cartoon dog in it. Again, I guess if you just looked at it as a pure Silver Age story, sure. You know, did I laugh? Yeah. Did I think some of the action scenes were cool? Yeah. But a lot of times also it just looked kind of cheap. And my buddy had seen it. He took his younger son to see it earlier today, and they saw it in 3D, and he said it looked terrible in 3D. So he said it looked a lot better in the IMAX that we saw it in. I think that using the John Williams score with guitars is kind of a cop-out, you know? But again, I don't blame James Gunn for this. He's giving the studio exactly what they asked for, you know? People hated the Zack Snyder ones. I get it. I understand why people don't like those movies. I personally do. That version of Superman made me care. I never liked Superman. Like, I was never a huge Superman fan. I hate the Christopher Reeves movies. And I know that hate is a strong word, but I just genuinely despise the Chris Reeves movies. I've never been into them. The first two are obviously far more tolerable than 3 and 4. But it's that the first one has a golden age vibe to it. It feels like golden age 30s comics. This one feels more like 1950s, 1960s, bright and colorful, and you know, again, when Superman goes into the Minecraft world and has to hold the baby from getting eaten by the dimensional rift thing, you know, I was like, oh, cool, Metamorpho, man. I'll take that from it. And Mr. Terrific was fucking great. I think Mr. Terrific is my favorite part of the entire movie. That's a character that I was like, I've read that, you know, character for years. I was like, how do you translate that to film? And I think they did a good job translating it to film. I like that character. But once it eases into the James Gunn isms of it all, it just seemed, it goes in autopilot, and it does a lot of things that I swear, again, people blame Zack Snyder for, and I don't want to be like, oh, those movies are too smart, because yeah, I know people who do, that's not their Superman. They don't want Superman that's conflicted. They don't want a Superman that has self-doubt or as a messianic figure. They just want smiling, happy, gee whiz Superman. That's fine, I understand that. But like, he literally stops and saves a squirrel in this one, and I groaned out loud. You know, and Lex Luthor has a pocket dimension where he has super intelligent monkeys posting on Reddit bad things about Superman. It's just too much of that in there, and it's a lot of characters yelling at each other, which is another James Gunn thing, is like people yelling at each other. I feel like it didn't have enough emotional weight to kind of carry the sort of Norman Rockwell-ness of it, of the Richard Donner cut of, you know, the first Superman, and it lacked the weight of the Snyder ones. But they wanted a popcorn movie. They wanted Superman fighting a kaiju. They wanted Superman fighting his clone. They wanted, you know, weird Middle Eastern territory war thing going on. And then Supergirl shows up, and she's a drunk party girl, which I was like, really? You read that graphic novel, and that's what you took from it? That's the Supergirl we're going with? Okay. I don't know. I kind of bummed. I was excited because I thought, you know what? It's like with Batman, like you need the dark one and the light one, and then you have a middle ground, which is the animated series, and it doesn't ever take the material lightly. It treats even the silliness with, you know, some weight, and this just felt like there wasn't any weight to it. Like, again, the two big speeches, Kal-El's speech, you know, at the end about what his greatest power is, and Luthor's speech about his, you know, why he hates Superman, I was like, oh my god, like, this is just like, this is all tell and not show, which is the reverse of the, you know, the Zack Snyder ones. I didn't think the effects looked that great. There was just way too much stuff going on, you know, and I think that they set it up in an interesting way. It's like, okay, there's a lot of text on screen. It's like, this has been going on for this long, this has been going on for this long, this has been going on for this long, here we are. It just goes on these weird asides and tries to pack too much into, you know, and all the people who said, oh, there was way too much going on in Batman vs. Superman. It's like, all right, well, then I want to know what you think about this one. But, you know, there's a reason that these characters have been around for as long as they have, is because everyone has their own version of what they love about these characters. You know, I prefer a darker, more conflicted Superman. I you know, someone who wrestles with the idea of being the most powerful man in the world, you know. And I don't know, that I thought that was more interesting. And the idea of a world, like, what would happen, what would the world be like if Superman showed up, you know? And people really hate the scene where he's talking to Pa Kent, and he's like, what was I supposed to do, let them die? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. Like, he doesn't know, he doesn't care, like, he I love that scene so much because when his voice breaks, it's just like, he's just a guy who wants to protect his son. You know, he loves this child that came from the stars, but it's his own, you know, he loves it if it's his own child. And, you know, you have some of that in this, but it's done in like a very like, oh, my parents don't know how to use a cell phone kind of thing. And then anytime you do try to have an emotional scene, it's undercut with a joke. It's kind of a bummer because even in the Guardians movies, he was able to take those emotional scenes and make them have more punch to them. And this one, I felt like they were too scared to. And again, there's not really a plot of this movie. It just kind of goes. And if they did go do All-Star Superman, where it was like a day in the life of Superman, and why, to prove to Lex Luthor why the world needs a Superman, and to prove to the world, you know, what Superman means, that's fine. That they didn't really do that. They just go like, oh yeah, really, Zach, or what's his name, Superman's dad, it's Bradley Cooper. Yeah, they sent you here to have harems of women and spread the seed of a new Krypton. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, really? You know, that wasn't like, I would have accepted that a lot more if the engineer, when she got into the Kryptonian system, like, changed the message so that people were scared of Superman. But no, that was why Jor-El sent him here. Because he could be a god because of our son. And I was like, all right, we're going to get mad at Zack Snyder stuff now. Let's be honest. We got to do both sides on this one. Because I thought that took me the fuck out of it, man. And just the idea of Jimmy Olsen stuff, of him being like the ladies' man, but nobody knows why. And I don't know. It just, when the credits were over, I was just like, oh. Pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. There are things about it I liked, so I'm not shitting on it completely. But I rewatched Man of Steel not too long ago, and I just, to you I'm wrong. To you I love Batman versus Superman. I love the Snyder cut. I'm not a Snyder bro. But there's a difference in storytelling here. And I guess because I was never a huge fan growing up of Silver Age comics, I never really liked my comics zany. um, but yeah, so we got super dogs and super intelligent monkeys and yeah, so that's it. That's Superman. Um, I'm sure it'll do money. I'm sure it'll do well. But I don't know. Just wasn't. It wasn't for me. It wasn't. It's fun popcorn movie, but I'll forget about it, and I'll probably. I think I probably have seen Superman 4 the most times in my life, simply because it was the one that was on TV all the time. I think I've only seen Superman Returns twice. So this one will probably go into that like Superman 3 world where, like, I know what happened, but I don't, it's not something I revisit. I probably won't revisit this one. And it has nothing to do with the performances. They worked with what they were given, but I don't know. It was just super meh to me.